When I was 5 years old, my parents brought home my little brother Joe. Oh, well, he was perfect in all ways. He was tiny and had little old man wrinkles. Even his crown was magic to me. It was then that I knew that I wanted to be a father. I would help change his diapers. I almost single-handedly potty trained him. To be honest, I don't know if it was the fact that Joe was one of those good-behaving babies or some genetic predisposition that drove me. All that I know is that my path towards fatherhood began there and led me to where I am today. Because even as a child, I knew that no matter what else happened in life, I was going to have kids and be the best father that I could be for them. From a very young age, we encourage our youth to plan out the trajectory for the rest of their lives. Age 18 frequently raises the question of where would you want to go to college, as you're expected to have a solid blueprint for your major, your future career, and anything else you would like to accomplish in the rest of your days. It is only human nature to wish for a beautiful life on paper, but how can we guarantee that everything will play out in our favor? In the end, we all have to be careful for what we wish for. Fatherhood by Mizell. My sophomore year in college, I met Anna. Well, she was beautiful in all ways. She was brilliantly intelligent and stunningly good-looking, which made me wonder why on earth she took a second to look at me. I was prematurely bald and in general studies. She just came up to me in the cafeteria one day when I was sitting alone eating my bologna sandwich and chips. Well, she just plopped down the other side of the table like we'd been meeting that way for months. "Do you have any extra mayonnaise?" she asked, already reaching for one of my extra packets. That was how I met my future wife. That lunch turned into a relationship worthy of all the poets and epics that ever put pen to paper. Well, at least in my eyes. We continued to meet for lunch, and I always had an extra mayo packet regardless of what we were eating. It was our little inside joke. When she asked me why I hadn't picked a definitive major, I was hesitant to tell her the real reason. You see, the real reason I had it was I was already planning on being a stay-at-home dad, which then brings up the discussion of having kids, which is about as taboo to discuss as early on in a relationship as past relationships. However, I wanted to be honest with her, and I knew if I really wanted to make this relationship last, it was going to come up eventually. So I explained to her, I'm honestly here to meet my future wife so we can have kids and I can stay at home with them. The whole thing was so backwards from what was considered to be normal that she was stunned into silence. Then a smile the size of her entire face appeared. "So I'm going to be the big money maker, the one wearing the pants, bringing home the bacon, making that dough." She took my hand and kissed it on the middle knuckle. I'll never forget that laugh brushing her lips, confirming our future. Then, 7 months after we first began trying, Anna was late. We tried so hard to contain our excitement, knowing that the stress from the past few months could be the culprit. Then, after a week and nothing happened, we decided to crack open one of those mini pregnancy tests we had bought in anticipation of this moment. The seconds felt like years as we waited for a red plus sign to appear. Then, slowly, a cross faded into existence, and with it, the knowledge that we were going to have a baby. I began to not only read, but study the baby preparation books. I nearly destroyed my mother-in-law's baby name book, simply reading each entry over with her last name and using them in sentences I assumed I would use. "Isaiah, you cut that out." "Priscilla, honey, your mother needs help with the laundry." "How was school today, JJ?" "Your dress is beautiful, Aaron." As far as family is concerned, my parents had cut me out of their lives when I went to college, upset over my choice to pursue fatherhood over a career. Her parents, on the other hand, had already started looking at houses near ours. Anna's mother started planning the baby shower. We thought a month before the due date would be safe. However, Anna's body had different plans. I must have been sleeping hard because she ended up hating me to wake me up. I stayed up with the start and just stared at her face in the dark. The streetlight shone through our window and illuminated the tears that poured down her cheek. I think I'm in labor," she said. The fear in her voice grabbed me even more than the words themselves. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong, and she knew it. I jumped out of bed, grabbed my phone from the side table as I went. I had her OBGYN's office on speed dial, knowing that despite the error, they have a nurse on call to field any questions and concerns, like what to do when your wife goes in labor at 32 weeks. Every bump, turn, and stoplight on the way to the hospital was torture. She was in agonizing pain, and the car was just a sealed box of hopeless fear. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. We were supposed to sit at home, drinking coffee and counting through the contractions together. But there was no sipping coffee or counting contractions or taking breaks in between. There was just pain, fear, and hopelessness. When we got to the hospital, I barely remembered the car and parked before I was out and around. There was a pool of blood on the front passenger's leather seat, but I didn't allow myself to dwell on that as I dragged my all but pale-faced wife through those emergency room doors. We were swarmed by nurses from the second that we got through the entrance. Some of them gently took her from me and placed her in a wheelchair, while others simultaneously asked for information. Right then, I realized I left my wallet back out in the car. I'll be right back, honey. I just need to go grab my wallet. Within seconds, it took me to run back to my car, grab my wallet, and return to the emergency room entrance. They had already carted her into an operating room that I was not allowed into. I was shown to the ER waiting room and instructed to get some coffee at the coffee bar. Coffee? You think I want coffee while my wife and future child are literally fighting for their lives? What made matters even worse was that I desperately did. So there I was, sitting on a hard plastic chair, sipping from a styrofoam cup of terrible coffee, just waiting. An hour or so later, I honestly couldn't tell you how long I sat there because it felt like years. The doctor came up and knelt in front of me. We lost your wife, was how he started. As if Anna was just a piece of jewelry they couldn't find. They lost her. The rest of the words became white noise to me, coming through here and there like a bad radio connection. Words like hemorrhage and uncontrollable then came through the words that cut through the static entirely. The baby has survived and is stable, but will need to stay in the NICU for a while. The baby! It's a girl, he said, and left me there as I just began to weep. A while turned out to be 4 weeks. As far as premature babies go, our Elizabeth was pretty, healthy, and well developed. She surpassed all the expectations of the doctors and nurses and grew perfectly, healthily, and naturally. To be honest, those 4 weeks were a blur to me. It was surreal, the mix of joy and sorrow that everyone had. Anna's parents came up to meet their granddaughter, but also to bury their own daughter. Then it was just Elizabeth and I. The reason that Anna was gone. I tried so hard to separate the two. It was obviously not Elizabeth's fault that Anna had died, but if we had not tried to have kids, Anna would still be alive, and those were the facts. It didn't help that Elizabeth was constantly screaming at me, nothing like the experience I had with my baby brother. Over the next few weeks, I began to approach the end of my very short rope. Elizabeth would scream, and I would scream right back. I began to shout unfair accusations right into her tiny, pitiful face. The fact that she refused to contest my claims only angered me even more. I could no longer take it. I could not remember the last time I slept for more than 30 minutes at a time. I simply needed sleep. I thought it over and decided she'd be okay for one night on her own. She wouldn't starve and she'd be changed the moment I returned. It was good to let a baby cry out, right? So I fed her, I changed her and I swaddled her, and I placed her back in her crib, and I left her, along with my phone, knowing that the only way to get some real rest was to make sure there were no distractions. I then checked into a motel a few blocks down for the night. It was 4 weeks later when the cops began pounding on my motel door. I very calmly got out of bed, opened my door, and right then I was very forcibly handcuffed. They nearly ripped my shoulder out of its socket as they dragged me towards the cruiser. But I didn't protest. I didn't put up a fight. Because after all, I was guilty. Guilty of thinking I was meant to be a father, but guiltier of being completely wrong. Thank you.